Melee is a fun element, especially in first-person shooter. I think the Far Cry games, sometimes you're limited. Tumbling is better in a third-person controller. Melee is just something as a first-person controller. You feel like you need to have a melee element just to kind of, you've got those hands in front of you and you want to do things with them. And I'm doing it before reloading because in an arcadey kind of game, maybe you're going to have infinite shooting anyway, like infinite ammo, endless ammo, and you're not going to be so prioritized about things like reloading. But you want to shoot all the time, and then when you're in close quarters with something, you want to bash or melee or use the butt of the gun to pistol whip or commit some sort of physical mayhem. Let's keep in mind, however, that of course that means setting up specific collisions in Unity. So what I've done here, as you can see, I've extended the range. I just started working from the idle one again. Melee is an animation sequence, 1-2 punch kind of thing. If you need it really fast, maybe 45 frames if you're doing 30 frames a second. I stretched it out and doing 2 seconds, and a 1 and a 2. So the first one goes kind of to 30, and then the second move, and it's sort of like a left-right kind of like a good example actually in a game is Far Cry, or a good example too I like is Fallout 76 or Fallout games, the newer ones. Fallout 76 I think actually has a revolver, and there's some good melee, and since that kind of a style where you kind of, the idea being that kind of like to be effective, it's like you catch them one way and then you kind of catch them the other way, and if you kind of catch them both ways quickly, it really kind of stuns them, and if you can imagine if you're doing this all the time, sort of like a mashing the button kind of thing. What I ended up doing here at the end is slowing down the video just because you appreciate the melee a lot better, and you're just sort of doing the frames and you position things. You want to hold certain parts, like you kind of want to draw the gun back or draw, like kind of telegraph that you're going to hit, and then you swing really fast to do the melee, and then kind of at the end of it there's a kind of pause too, and then you kind of go back to the firing or basic position because you want to make it feel almost like at any moment it could very easily go back to the shooting. Like just imagine that, because maybe what you'll do is you'll have that character get backed up a little bit, right? Depending how you set it up in your game, maybe you'll script it so that the melee will force them back 2 or 3 feet. So then you want to quickly go back into a shooting. So it's always good to kind of use that sort of, and I'm even doing it in the halfway mark, because you can almost imagine it's like, oh, okay, well maybe the first melee hit will make it go back. Of course, in the game, we'll just make sure that it finishes. It'll be kind of a little bit of a cheat with the mechanics to kind of make it look more clever than it is, or make you look more clever than you are. Yeah, and the fun thing about doing an arcadey kind of approach first is melee does look ridiculous sometimes. Like even in Far Cry games, there's things are a good example in the Far Cry games, like Far Cry 4 or 3, and when you're doing the animal skins, like the knife plunges in to start skinning the animal and does this big, things are exaggerated and sometimes kind of caricatured or cartoonish. So you have to keep in mind, I played it there a few times at the end, and you saw how it zoomed in, and kind of you want to try to imagine how it's going to look within that, viewport of your first-person character. If you're kind of pulled back too much, your things are out of frame and you're not going to see that. So just kind of, again, kind of imagine how it's really going to look. We're not going to go into Unity now. The next video, as I do with these titles, I'm going to explain that we're going to go back and do the reload animations first. That way we just finish kind of all our work in Blender and we have things kind of all set up, and then we can think about how to implement them in Unity. Again, you have to think that in Unity for melee, it's when it's happening when you're close, etc. Right? So, yeah.